John, we've heard sort of discrepancies. We've heard criticisms really about this plan of sending extra troops, certainly from the British population who's lost so many soldiers, and also from the Americans who've seen troops going into battle. But it seems in Afghanistan as well, where you are, there's some questions being raised over the strategy.
Well, yes, lots of disagreement, as you can imagine, about the best way forward and the best way to use these troops. General Stanley McChrystal, the US general in charge of NATO forces here, has laid out a detailed strategy, which is the so-called population-centric strategy, where he wants to focus on areas that are already held, particularly where the largest number of Afghans live, particularly cities like Kandahar in the south, where there's great concern that the Taliban is mounting a creeping takeover of that city. So he wants to send more troops to places like Kandahar, more troops to places like the Green Zone in neighbouring Helmand province, the lush agricultural area near the provincial capital there. But there are plenty of people around the world, but particularly in Afghanistan as well, who fear that more troops, more foreign troops on the ground will just end up looking like a foreign occupation and further incite anti-foreign sentiment and fuel the insurgency. So there is a school of thought, particularly amongst tribal elders and some Afghan politicians, that really these troops should be used to protect the border, to try and prevent insurgents coming in from Pakistan, and they would prefer to see them outside the big cities, outside the population centres, and holding back the border.
OK, now, John, in terms of what their mission will be if these 30 or 40,000 troops are deployed, is that enough?
Well, there was a NATO, another commander of NATO forces here a few years ago who used to point out that the US Army's own counterinsurgency doctrine would dictate that really you'd need about 400,000 total counterinsurgents, foreign military, to really deal with this level of insurgency. If the reports are correct and we see an extra 35,000 US soldiers sent to this theatre and perhaps another 5,000 non-US NATO allies, then really you're going to have a total of about 100,000. So really not enough according to NATO's own strategy. But I think that's why what we're going to see is a more nuanced strategy that, as I say, will focus primarily on where most Afghans live, to use the limited number of troops that will be available to focus on where most Afghans are, rather than trying to secure the entire country. I think there will be an acceptance that large parts of Afghanistan will never be secure, that insurgencies will always run riot here, as they do in India, where the Indian government has been dealing with several insurgencies for the last few decades.